Hello there and welcome to Bullets for Bucks. So in today's episode we're going to be going over the PSE Fang 350 Xt Crossbow. I've had this crossbow for several years actually, and I've used it to kill several deer. It's done a great job and I've never had any problems with it. As you can see, it comes with a nice camo pattern here. Has a nice handle built into the rear stock here. And also you can use this as a handle as well. Goes out into a nice pistol grip. Has a trigger that is good for the price range. Nothing special, nothing to write home about, but the trigger works. I have not tested it, but my guess would be between 4 and 6 pounds. It's a little bit on the heavy side, but it's a $300 crossbow basically. It goes for sale anywhere from $275 up to probably around $350, $360, depending on where you buy it from. It comes with this Picatinny rail here, so you can mount a scope, and it does come with the scope on it. I did put an aftermarket scope on it. The scope I used for several years seemed to work fine. After 2 or 3 years of using it, it started to have some issues. I think the issues were actually the fact that this upper assembly right here was coming loose, not necessarily the scope base. I did go through, tighten the scope base, tighten the upper assembly. I think it was actually the upper assembly was loose, and that was creating basically a loose zero. So instead of getting tight groups, I was getting bigger groups at 20 yards and so on and so forth. I went ahead, replaced the scope just in case, replaced the rings with some really hefty rings. You can see a little bit overkill for a crossbow, and put this Pro Staff P3 crossbow scope on the top here. It's been absolutely excellent scope so far, and today we're going to go out and do some more verification. It has a BDC reticle in it. They are little O's instead of hashes for the yardage markings, and it goes, you sight it at 20 yards, and then the second hash is 30, 40, 50, and 60 yards. This scope, the BDC only goes to 60 yards. For reference, in case you do buy this crossbow and you want to use the scope that comes on it, yes, it's not as good as the Nikon. It's still a good scope though, or at least it was for several years. Still debatable whether the scope started to go bad or the mount. We will say this. There's several mosquitoes out here getting me. But anyhow, it's late in the evening on July 4th right now. We were going to go to a fireworks show, but it was canceled due to the rain weather, although it hasn't been raining, so not sure if that was a good call. Anyhow, you can see here, it is a compound crossbow with 2 nice cams. Has limb savers, limb dampeners on there, and also has a string dampener silencer right here. In the price range, I don't believe you can find a crossbow, or excuse me, in the price range, I don't think you can find a crossbow that's probably better for the money. There's a lot of features you get with this that you just don't see on crossbows in that price range usually. So anyways, it's been tested, tried and true. It's been a great crossbow. Now, for reference with that factory crossbow scope that comes on this PSE Fang, it also has a BDC reticle, and just for future reference, it does match up just perfectly to the Piledriver Carbon Express 20-inch bolts and the 100 grain X-Bolt Rage broadheads. I noticed with that combination, those hashes on the scope that came with the crossbow mark perfectly at 20, 30, 40, 50 yards. So we're going to go ahead out here and do some shooting and catch back with you guys later. Go out there and take a look. Unfortunately, all I have is 2 crossbow broadheads that are 100 grain that are practice broadheads. Fortunately, I only have 2 practice broadheads, so I'll have to shoot 2 bolt groups, and we're going to start at 20 yards. I'm just going to go out and verify. It looks like it's shooting about 2 inches right, and that's because I've only had this scope on here a short time, and so I'm still getting it tuned in. So it looks like I need to go about 1 inch up and about 1.5 inches left. The cool thing about this Nikon crossbow scope is that it equals 1/4 inch at 20 yards. Most crossbow scopes I've used in the past are actually just all over the place. From 1/4 inch at 100 yards like a rifle scope would be, but not set up for a crossbow, to just all kinds of different things, is it's actually a 1/4 inch at 20 yards made for a crossbow. And so you don't have to sit there and crank on the dials and figure out what this crossbow scope is really calibrated for. If it's, an inch at 20 yards, if it's an 1/8 of an inch at 20 yards, you just never know with a lot of these. And this one is made very nice and specific for crossbows, and so that makes it really handy and easy to adjust. If you do ever get a crossbow, always get a cocking rope with pulleys on it. What that does is it allows you to pull back the string evenly on both sides, and so you don't get the string pulled more to one side or the other when it cocks. That will cause you to shoot right or left by a great degree and hurt your accuracy. So you definitely need a cocking rope if you're going to crossbow hunt. All right, looks like we're dead on. I did jerk a little bit on the shot, so we probably got like a 2 or 3 inch group, which isn't anything to write home about, but it looks like that adjustment to the scope corrected everything. It looks like it's dead on. So now we're going to move out to 30, 40, and 50 and 60 yards, hopefully, here in just a second. At 20 yards, definitely not my best group. Shot a bit high on the first one, shot a bit low on the second one. I definitely jerked that second one, but our windage looks to be pretty much dead on. Just need to work on tightening up these groups throughout the year. These bolts have been used a lot and probably need to be switched out. But that's what it's all about, getting out here and practicing every single day is what you need to do to be proficient and to fill your tags. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move it out to 30 yards. You always zero a crossbow scope at 20 yards for the first center crosshair, and then for your BDC it usually goes 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 depending on the scope. So here we go 30 yards. We made a few corrections to the turrets here, and now we're going to shoot out at 30 yards. And see, this is a Carbon Express Piledriver 20-inch bolt with a 100 grain Rage crossbow broadhead on it. So now we're going to see how that does with the BDC and the scope at 30 yards. And this is something you basically, this doesn't have a feet per second ring or an adjustment ring for the power. So we're going to see how well that matches up. I think this shoots these bolts and broadheads at exactly 325 feet per second. Of course, it's a PSE Fang 350 advertised at 350 feet per second, but that depends on what bolt and broadhead combination you're using, and is definitely not replicated in the field usually if you're using something other than exactly what they used in testing. I am getting bitten up here, so bear with me. So there's the 30-yard group right there, pretty close together. Second shot was a little better than the first. So yeah, looking really good. We'll go ahead and move out to 40 yards. We'll probably have to go ahead. Looks like I'm seeing a trend here where I'm shooting left. That could be me. If not, we might have to make a small correction right with our scope. But everything looks great. Awesome. Oh, I think they're touching or almost touching. Great group right there. So we'll go out there and take a look at them in just a second. Out here and see what we got. Oh yeah. Huh, that's better than my 20-yard group and my 40 and 30-yard group. Good group there. Touch high. That could have been me. Still plenty, I'm aiming right center here, so not bad at all. So here we're going to go ahead and we're going to shoot at 60 yards. Whew, that one's quite a bit low left. Ooh. Walk out here to 60, and I'm just gonna tell you right now, it's a terrible, terrible group. The first one's not too bad. It's probably 4 inches off center. The second one I jerked far right. So a pretty big group. Elevation isn't too bad on them, but from left to right, it's a pretty bad group. Elevation looks pretty decent. But there's my 60-yard group, and basically with my abilities, my crossbow, I never take a shot past 40 or 50. I have passed 40, but never past 50, I don't think, and I never have taken one at 60 or farther. So what I've learned today, I need to practice a little more. I'm not the best shot on a crossbow, but the BDC on this Nikon works great out to 50. Little iffy at 60 with this combination in this PSE Fang 350 XT. But what I can tell you after several years owning this crossbow, it is by far one of the best, most consistent, has the most features in its price range. I've had a couple other crossbows and none have performed or have the features that this one does. So that's it for today, guys. Catch back with you later. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel. Use the links below to buy stuff. It really helps the channel a lot. And see you next time.